Hi, welcome to the Babe Method podcast. I am here with Alison Westborn, and today we're going to just be talking about you and everything that has to do with art and the correlation between art and passion and life itself.
Hey,
I am so happy you're here. Listen,
I'm so honored to be here. You guys have no idea.
oh my God, no, I literally have no idea because it's insane that you're even saying that to me. I just truly feel so happy that you're here. So first of all, I want to just introduce you as an artist, and I want to talk about your art. And I know that we don't have a physical representation of your art now, but I do want to be able to post something on our YouTube video so people know what your art currently looks like. And even as we transition through talking about different phases of your art, we should definitely show them what those things look like too.
Sure. I mean, everything's
so
possible.
cool.
And then, one day we'll get you a piece in here.
Oh my-
Say it.
Not me literally telling Anna, like, I just want to fill my studio with, like, everybody's art.
Yeah. I mean, the intention behind this, intention behind the space, all day. A piece belongs in here.
Is this really going to be just, like, me crying the whole episode? No, but seriously, it's so cool because you got here early enough that we got to connect, and it's crazy that you can really feel a sense of connection with people without even, like, knowing them. Like, you walked in, and I was like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know you.
Like, I knew you in a different life.
Yes, and I already feel like I already know that you're a creator. Like, you can tell.
I love that.
No, like, you can really tell. And we kind of talked about this before when I was just kind of, like, spitballing, like, things I want to talk to you about is, like, there's a type of energy and a mindset that is behind an artist that I think that anybody can encompass and should be encompassing. And I think that you guys as artists just are kind of blessed with the knowledge that you are unique. And the knowledge that you can embrace that and make something more from it. And I think that us non-artists, like the non, but really, because I think that when you think about art, you think that you have to have a medium. You have to be working with something, whether it's paint, whether it's clay, or whatever it is. I feel that we all start to assume art only with certain mediums when I've now realized that art is really anything that you can create. Mm-hmm. Anything that you can put your own uniqueness on is all of a sudden art.
1000%. I think discovering it early and accepting it, that's where, like, the power lies. Because we do have more of that in ourselves inherently.
Yeah.
Everybody. But so many times people approach me and they're like, I can't even draw a stick figure. First of all, I appreciate those people because I need you. I need people that appreciate art and don't do it.
That's a beautiful outlook.
I love it. Yeah, because, like, they're the artistic eye and the love for it, like the love that you have for it and what you bring to bringing attention to it. That's such a beautiful thing. And then, of course, like, people taking it within their own power and applying it to other parts of their life. Like their home, or how they run their business. I mean, that is how you can grow something authentic, and that still speaks just like my art does.
I forgot we were on the podcast for a second. I literally just got lost in her eyes. Like, she's just speaking, and I'm like, no, don't tell me. I told you. My love language is physical touch. I will kiss you across the table.
I'm like looking at the length of the table, looking at we just throw all these to the front.
This becomes a whole nother thing. No,
listen, we always need a backup. I'm saying, like,
I did make
I'm an artist, so
true, girl. I'm a podcaster. This is my 4th episode. Only 2 are out.
I can't believe it's
so. Just kidding. Just imagine all of a sudden. Anyway, going back to art. On that note, bodies are art, and I didn't think about that. Mm-hmm. And actually, I mentioned how, for me, bodybuilding really was one of those steps. Like, now I can look back, right? Like, life never makes sense in the moment. It only makes sense, like, when you look back on it. And there's so many things in my life that have set me up to be like, girl, everything is art.
Yeah.
Like, when I started bodybuilding, it was a point where I was like, oh, I'm weightlifting. Like, it became like I felt like I was just walking in line. Like, I was walking in line with the mindset that I thought everybody had, and therefore I had to have, right? Like, I'm in here, I want to win, I'm weightlifting, muscles. And then I'm like, wait, I'm creating my body. I'm sculpting. You have
a vision.
I have so everything changed. Beautiful. And everything changed with me with weightlifting, because now intention drives everything. Before you have a single thought, you have intention, right? Mm-hmm. And that's almost like a feeling or a sensation that doesn't even need words to be expressed. And so I started to realize like that was the driving force for it all. So when I walk into the gym, if I'm creating an art piece, like what is my intention with each? I don't have brush strokes, but I have reps. You know what I mean? So like every rep, like, but it's so cool. It's like every rep, every set, it's like you need those breaks. And then when you were talking to me about like, or I listened to you on the podcast talk about almost like doing an art piece and taking time off and coming back to it. I was like, same thing with weightlifting. You do these things where you are creating, sculpting your body. You may do a certain lift and you take time off, or even in between sets, you take time, you rest in between sets, and that sets you up for your next set, you know? And I think that each set you become better. Each time you take that space away from your art, I'm sure it gives you perspective. So I feel like there's just so much correlation there just with something so simple as just like weightlifting.
Yeah.
And art.
And that's not simple, first of all. The
True.
body and treating that as
True.
an art piece, which like if more of us did, everything else would fall in line a little easier. This is also me advice to myself always. But like with what you were saying, did it not change the way that you approached it when you started seeing it as that? Because now every time you're going in there with that intention, it helps you be par for the course.
Exactly. No, it like, really does.
I'm not here to feel better just based on the surface.
And it's not just a right now thing. It's I'm setting the intention that I want to do this forever. So my lifts are safer. I feel more in tune with like my mind muscle connection. I'm like, okay, I am, and it always kind of blows my mind because I'm like a deep thinker. So I love to like get really in depth with like my thinking.
Absolutely.
So I'll sit there and I'll be like, okay, I am creating tension in this muscle with my, like, I am moving my body to create this movement that I then receive a sensation. And then almost like I am gauging at what point I am building muscle at, you know what I mean? Like I'm in control of it all. Like it just is kind of crazy when you think about like how you go by your canvas, you pick out your colors, there's a point where it's like, oh shoot, like
you're
all of this is mine.
Yourself. I mean, we really are just like this weird machine that can be
crazy,
so capable in so many ways, but also like our own worst enemies if we decide not to approach life and that like really it's looking at the long term.
Yes.
Because what you start to do is you start making decisions now in that same way. So if you can start with something as simple, not simple, but simple as doing the right thing for your body. It really is simple.
Right. When you fall, it's crazy actually how simple it is that we
know
overcomplicate
right and wrong.
It. Right. And you know how you feel.
Yeah.
And a lot of times if you don't think that you know how you feel, it's because you're avoiding it. It's never that you don't know how you feel, right? It's just that you are choosing to not, because most likely you don't like how you feel. Let's be honest. We want to feel good. So if you felt good, you probably would know that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like most of the time, we just hide things from ourselves, which is funny because you haven't heard the last episode, but it was on vulnerability. And one of the things I discussed was that you can lie to yourself. And a lot of us do all the time.
Mostly lie.
I know. I didn't want to be that person that's like calling people out, but like really.
And never to blanket anything, but I think that this world has kind of prefaced us to be a little more, I'm fully of the understanding that what you put out on social media and stuff, you're going to cater in a way. And I don't even judge people for that because you can't trust the overall audience unless you know. I know it's
pouring out.
I actually love rain, so bring it
I can like hear it, but I don't know if I hear it through. Sorry.
Yeah, you good?
No, I don't think you're going to hear it on the audio. I don't think.
Yeah, either way, we're here for it. Nature. Bring us the energy.
I know, give us the energy.
It's a curtain outside.
It's literally cleansing.
It's a cleansing. But yeah, whenever what was I saying?
I know, I'm so sorry to cut you.
No, you're fine.
I just didn't want it to mess up the audio, and I was like, is it gonna, but fine. We're talking about body being art and how it is that simple.
The vulnerability piece.
And the vulnerability,
so,
yeah.
Like, and how people are liars.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, but really, because I struggled to like say that on the podcast, but I'm like, if you really think about it.
I only say it because in identifying it myself and 100%. In myself, because that's the only way that I've really come about some really necessary change. If you realize that you're kind of running into certain things in a cycle in your life and you take the time to step out and be the observer, which I'm a really big fan of, first of all, reading books. always talk about that, but like read or listen to books to give you, it's always just to have another voice in my head.
Yes.
I really love words. I'm a word.
Listen, we really are going to make
word
out.
nerd. I'm a word nerd.
Me too. Well, it's funny you say that because I was mentioning today how I've started to really come to terms with, I have always been jealous of artists. My mom was a fashion designer. Like, she went to school for fashion. She can draw like no other. She's always been super creative and like always had a tangible art piece. And I always felt very, like, I always was sad that I felt like I have so much creativity and like so much drive to create, but I never felt like I had a medium. And then I was like, I think I figured it out. My medium is my words. Like, I enjoy speaking. I enjoy talking to others. I enjoy hearing it. And I know that the energy that carries is not something I take for granted.
It's huge.
So I'm like, that is one of my mediums.
And you're very good at it. I will say that. Because it is not something that comes naturally to a lot of people. And so for it to come naturally to you, yes, absolutely.
Thanks, girl.
Find your canvas. Because not everything is visual. Most things aren't. My favorite art form, which is music, is sound waves.
No, isn't it crazy? It's crazy. It's
so
just
there's so
crazy.
much power in that. There's a lot of power in speaking too, and in this is so, you're a deep thinker, as am I, and like I do deep dives, and there is such an ancient tie to how certain voices resonate with you. That's why I think sometimes you meet somebody, because those things do carry throughout time, and not only that, like, I'm such a nerd, sorry.
No, please go on.
Like epigenetically.
Okay, tell me.
Which epigenetics is the transference of like traits.
Genes, yeah.
Yeah, but also behavioral traits and stuff like that throughout time. But those things really do carry messages. I mean, just like DNA carries messages.
That's so, I had not even thought about it.
Just, I mean, sounds in general. Just think about sounds out of like some of the earliest instruments. You can tell when something sounds ancient, but I feel like it carries messages from that time forward.
Yes, like you can feel it more than you hear it.
Maybe, but I don't feel like I am.
And you know what? I've also realized, like, because you feel that way, it is true.
Well, there's always a sense of knowing.
Yeah.
As well, I'm extremely connected, and not in like a woo-woo, I'm above anything sense. Like, truly not. I am of this.
Yes.
Of the best and the worst of everything.
We're cut from the same cloth. I feel the same way, girl. And I love that I claim it all. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm everything that's good and everything that's bad.
I think just our job in having that gift, whatever it is, whatever it may be, is to be able to find the way to bring the good stuff forward. And that's how it replicates over time. And, you know, it is important to find not only your passion in your voice, literally, figuratively, throughout whatever modality you choose. It is so crazy that you said that about like having that kind of envy, because I have been on the other side of that many times. And I'm not an envious person, just naturally, just never have been.
No, you can tell.
Sometimes I wish I was, like, because there's situations that called for it, maybe. Yes. But I'm always like, yeah, it's cool.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I feel the same way. There's sometimes where I'm like, people will be like, don't you hate that person or whatever? And it's just like, nah. No. I wish them the best.
It'd be very hard for me to hate somebody, truly. But I've been on the receiving end where I can tell that person is feeling that. And I know my job in that sense is to, like, just calm that and, like, put the value back in their hands. Like, listen, it's not above you by any means. Yeah. Like, thank God you exist, that you appreciate it that much to want it, but also, you know, find your way. And not everything has to be a passion that gets, right now I feel like attention is it's what people strive for, and they don't realize it. Like, nobody would ever just say that I'm in this for the attention, but I think it is our biggest form of currency if you really think of it now. And that is so dangerous for the mindset of artists, creatives in general, because now you're putting value on something that it undermines what it's really about.
Yes. No, I agree. It starts to skew the potential for authenticity there.
Right. So whenever people do start to pursue something, I'll always, like, if someone is interested in the arts, they do stuff at home, they always say something like, you know, but I just did it. I'm like, you sound like an artist. Yeah. I'm like, because you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to boast, but at the same time, I'll try to, like, just go ahead and put out some advice, even if that's not what you're here for. And again, I'm not the end all be all, but I've had my certain path, and I know that other people walk something similar. And I'm very introspective. So like, let me go ahead and go through that pain and anything I have gone through. Like, it is for me to now offer you those tools.
Yes. And I agree in the same sense where it's like, I have worked through it. Mm-hmm. And that's literally one of the reasons why I feel like I started the podcast, because I'm like, I've learned so much throughout my life that if I can teach somebody everything I know now before they get to where I am, imagine how much further they could go.
Exactly.
And there's no competition. I just think that if we can almost create more like of a collective consciousness around these topics, around these conversations, then, and really just show that everything is connected. So there's a sense of like respect for anything and everything, because you are me and I'm you. You know what I mean? Like, it's all in the same. And I think conversations like this, where it's so easy to compare bodybuilding and art.
Yeah.
It's so easy for me to compare bodybuilding and art, which is not crazy because it's all the same.
Yep.
It's all connected.
It's
all is you.
approaching from a mentality that holds the end result higher than, well, okay. I kind of take that back.
Right, because it's also part of like the whole journey aspect.
The journey's really, for me, I'm such a journey person that it works against me sometimes because I enjoy processes so much.
That's so funny.
But that is the way to enjoy life.
So then do you get sad like when you finish pieces that you've really enjoyed working on, or is that apply?
No, because that's such a different payoff.
Yeah.
And I need that. Like actually I need that.
You're like, I need that.
I need that moment. But I continuously, now I'm living this life, I continuously have pieces in all different stages. So I'm always having my fulfillment in different ways. And trust me, I'm still a certain percentage unsatisfied always. And that comes with being a creative. That's what I was going to ask.
I was going to ask that. I'm like, I don't understand how do you know when something's done? Especially if you're working on it for an extended period of time. Because again, this also is like translates to my life, because now I see my life and my work as art. So I also am starting to get to the point of like, oh, I understand when you're creative, it's kind of up to you. So it's really been something tough. And I was wondering how you deal with those types of moments where you're like, when is something finished and when can I be proud of myself for the work I've put into it? Yeah.
You know, I've noticed, and a lot of creatives are like this too, in anything that I've done. It's terrible. It's so good. It's terrible. Whatever. It's me.
Yeah, that's all I asked for.
There's usually there would be a procrastination factor if I gave myself an unlimited timeline. So in the last few years, that's something I've really put in place. And I'm so proud of myself because I really stick to it. Like, only because the payoff has been consistent enough. Now I'm just in a new habit. So I put a certain timeline. It's not a heavy, like, this day, but a couple weeks. Yeah. I know I can. And I also know the best stuff comes right before I am forcing myself to be done.
Oh my gosh. Because sometimes I always say also, I literally was singing Big Sean today and was literally saying how best time to come in for you is the clutch or whatever he says.
Yes.
But seriously, what a rush.
What a rush. Exactly.
No, but it is.
It's
true.
a creative surge. So in how I approach projects now is I give myself a satisfying timeline where it's, because this is also a business, so where it makes sense for the client, and then makes sense for me. If there is something that I don't feel complete on, then I will openly communicate that, but also still hold myself to, okay, this now becomes priority. Right. So when it's done, that's a knowing within my own artistic abilities, and I know when something's not done.
That's beautiful, though.
I definitely know that. Like,
that's very true.
And there's been times, and it only has to happen a couple times where you fall short.
And you feel it. And you feel
having something hanging in like an expedition, I'm like...
And you don't love it. It's like, even if everybody...
And you have to show up to the opening and people are talking about it and complimenting it. I'm like, I'm like, I can't fake my face. I hate it. I don't hate it. I know what it can be, though. I know what it can be. No.
Just buy it. I'll fix it later.
No, don't just buy it. Nobody buy it. I'm going to work on it as soon as this place closes.
You're like, nobody buy this artwork.
Yeah, because it doesn't sit right with the creator, you know?
And it's funny, though, because I have a theory called, like, the say yes to the dress theory. And it's because if you watch a show, Say Yes to the Dress, they'll try on dresses and they'll be like, I think so. Like, I think I like it. And then they put on the dress that is like the one they're supposed to be in. And it's like an immediate hard yes. Like it's only yes or no.
You know, there's a knowing.
And I'm like, there's a knowing. There's a, you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, then it's a no.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that people forget. It's like, until you feel 100%, then it's a no right now. And that's okay.
If you are feeling confused in something, and this is very specific to my situation, if I'm feeling a little lost with, is this going to be the result? It's because I always am thinking, is this going to sit right with the collector?
Right.
You know, is this, because most of my work is commissions. And I'm very lucky that I have a big creative freedom in that, because a lot of people do approach me for my style or my advice.
Which is so great.
Bring me into their homes to choose what is gonna go in there. I mean, that to me means so much. And so I take that seriously. I take into account everything. And in that conversation, there's a lot of clear communication. But if towards the end, maybe I'm going for something, and if I'm not sure if it's done, I find myself like still trying different visions, then I need to reach back out to them. And I need to just have a conversation, be like, okay,
yeah,
here's where this is at. And usually they're super excited about whatever it is, but I'll just ask different questions around.
Almost like filling the gap.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because you had mentioned how you want to get to know the person before you complete the art. And it makes sense that you feel like you almost need to know them a little bit more to complete the art.
Yeah, sometimes it's, usually it comes with the project that there is massive creative freedom, but then I knowingly picked up that, okay, but are you going to love this in the way that I need you to love it?
Yeah, like you're like, they're looking
My
at the art, but you're looking at them.
It is higher than your standard is.
Yeah. Like, I want you to think about this all the time.
Yeah, but it doesn't hold me back much. Like, I do have a lot of confidence in my work and when I feel complete on something, because that is my job. I'm taking that off of your plate.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I'm thinking in such a, I call it spherical way, because I always come at things from every angle.
Love that.
If I can, because I'm not always in their house before to do a measurement. Sometimes I do on-site measurements. In that measurement, when I walk in, from the time I pull up to the house, I'm observing, okay, what do they look at every day?
Wow.
When you're walking into a door and you're coming through, oh, sorry.
It's okay.
And you're coming through, where does the light hit? So, and then I'm, you know, their bedroom's over there. Okay, you're waking up. This is going to be the third thing you see.
Wow.
You know, what does that need to be? I pay attention to, do they burn candles?
I love that.
And like, it gets to the point where if I'm just listing these things, it might sound creepy, but it's really not.
No, I love it.
If I'm in their house and it's like a couple, if there's like a wedding photo or something, I'm going to look at that wedding photo. I sometimes ask them, like, can I take a picture of that? Or if they have photos on their Instagram, I'll go down and look. And I'll tie in different special stuff, like the shaping of the dress. So I'll use that within the texture. And if you're that intentional about stuff, then usually you're hitting the mark.
Girl. Like, yeah, that's beautiful.
People at the end of the day, and I have this conversation a lot with a lot of my music friends, because I love partnering with other types of artists, but you know, it gets a little complicated if it's other visual artists too much. Gotcha. Like, we can't work in the same space. I can't pick up my studio and like bring it to where you're at. Usually that just has too many complications to really work together. But music, I've set up my house where like I have a piano, I have a guitar. I don't know how to play either. Other people do.
Wait, but that's incredible.
Yeah, so then I can have people in my space. They can work on their stuff. They feed off of my creativity and vice versa. It's really sick. Something. Yeah.
That is literally so sick. No, that is so cool, because I think
this was my dream. Like, this was my dream, and I'm finally like doing it. The day I got my piano, because that's something I do play it, but I'm not taking it to the point where I'm getting lessons or anything yet, because now that painting is my full time, it also used to be my outlet. It used to be just my outlet, where there truly wasn't any rules. Now I do have to like kind of balance those things, and that's probably one of the hardest parts about it being that, because I still need a pure release of, you know, not having to. And I get that with certain projects.
Yeah. But not having the pressure of like, this is A, for somebody else, or B, you have time constraints, or C, any type of constraint, right? Like I think any type of constraint for you would be crazy. Yeah.
So the piano, I don't have to be good at that.
True.
And so I'm gonna allow that for a while. I just like to listen to sounds and try to find them, and it keeps my curious brain moving, and which is a secret for anybody like in life, is anything that makes you curious, follow that. If you need time to decompress, spending that like scrolling stuff, like you got to catch yourself in these things, because
it's so true.
It really works against you in so many ways. That's not time off. That's not time your brain is off. That is time where your brain belongs to somebody else.
Yeah, it really does.
Because it's really being catered. I mean, the algorithms, everything is steering you to a thing.
To keep you on longer too. So
exactly.
It can be really tough.
So even if you feel like you're being curious on here, you're still being led down a path. So like take that curiosity somewhere else.
Well, and I always say too, I'm like I think one of the most important things to do is just do things that are difficult. Because I think that putting yourself in a situation where you're having to be a student, like I always say, I'm a forever student. Like I never want, I'm like, the word master to me is like, I think can be kind of a joke, because I'm like, you can't master anything. You can the only thing I think I've mastered is breathing, because I don't do that on my own, you know, like
I haven't.
I was gonna say, and then I still choke.
There's so many levels of that.
And then here we are, So I feel like there's no like mastering anything. I think that it's a constant learning. And the moments that I've put myself in super uncomfortable situations of like, oh, this podcast, this podcast, literally, I've had to learn about things that I never thought I would be learning about, and doing things that I never thought I'd be doing at all, you know? And now that I'm here editing and listening to audio and watching videos on like how to record things correctly or lighting or whatever, it's like, it's so hard, and it's something I never thought I'd be doing, but there's so much enjoyment in watching yourself improve.
Oh man.
And learning and being like, wow, even though I don't care about this, I've learned about it. Right? I mean, and I do care about this, but just in general, like things that you may not think, even weightlifting. I have clients who I'm like, they're like, I just don't see the why I'm doing it, or I don't get excited about. I'm like, you don't get excited about picking up 135 pounds off the floor?
Right.
Like, think about what you're doing right now.
And like, there's something to be said about like, okay, do something that you're not excited about, but you know is better for you.
Right.
You got to work through these things.
Yeah, and it's just like puts you in different situations that causes you to grow and causes you to really have to expand your mindset. And like, I think that the ultimate, like if I could get paid to do this, this is my ultimate job. If I could get paid though to just learn about myself for the rest of my life, which is kind of what we do as humans. Like I think that's our main job. Like I really think that our main objective as human beings on this planet, like when you're born, the first thing you got to start doing is learning about yourself. And I think that we start to neglect that, and because we live inside ourselves all the time, we assume that we know. We assume we know ourselves. We assume we know what we want. And we kind of touched on this earlier, where it's like you can really hide parts from yourself. And I just think that art really starts to dig that out of you. And I'm sure like listening to music and feeling different emotions, you can almost like see yourself projected into these artworks. And I think that really helps you develop more of like who you are, and also helps you see yourself a little bit better.
Right. And so much about just even my whole life and growing up in the way that I've looked at the world always, it's so not about me. And my art isn't about me, because like I'm settled with whatever this is, the cluster that it can be sometimes. Like that's cool, but I get to know myself every time I interact with somebody else, every time I touch someone else emotionally.
It's okay. I'm talking about making out. It's fine. Yeah.
Whatever. But like, you know, that's really for me where the real peace lies, is unraveling the inner workings of, because we reflect each other. The way that I perceive you also tells me something about me. And that's, if people realize that whenever you are feeling some kind of angst, or looking at a situation, all of us have been outside of a situation with two other people where we see the disconnect. You can see what's actually happening, right? The situation's so very clear to you, but this person is taking it very personally, and this person means no harm, right? we all have been that person who have been taking it personally. So now you're reacting in a way that is catered to your own experience. So being able to pivot and look out different windows, I always picture it like that. Having something visually to like trigger different mindsets has been really helpful.
That's interesting.
If you only spend your time looking out of this window, your window, you can only describe things. But like, you have to step back, and especially when you are feeling this friction with somebody else, that's the most important time to take a step back. And I mean, zodiacs are one thing, but I'm a Capricorn. I think that's very true to the nature of like a Capricorn. I don't identify with everything, but I'm very like, I won't respond always about very important things. I need to digest. I need to make sure that I'm not internalizing my own battles, whatever's going on that day, and now putting it on you.
Which is so smart. And I think that that's just also being emotionally responsible. Something that I also think is not inherently just locked into people. I think that it's something that we actually have to work at. But again, we think that we just inherit that ability, and it's not that way.
Sometimes you can't see that you're doing it, and that's for the most part
I was going to
say
that. Yeah. You've read the 4 Agreements.
Yes.
I was like, I know you have. I can base off this one conversation.
I feel like it's like you have to.
I know. That's like step one.
Like
step one.
To talk spiritually.
No, literally. Anybody that talks to me about anything and they're like, any recommendations? I'm like, have you started with the 4 Agreements?
Yeah. There's like a collective of
also 4 coming up again today. Have you read The Untethered Soul?
Yes.
Was that what you were referring to kind of when you're talking about the observer, or like that voice in your head?
He definitely speaks of it.
That blew my mind. That cured my anxiety. That book cured my anxiety for me.
Deepak Chopra was my first, the first guru that I...
Me too.
And it's funny because I discovered him not in a spiritual sense. Okay. It was the first book I read from him was called Super Genes.
Oh, wow.
And it was much more...
it's like more science-based because he does research.
Yeah, and it was about the gut microbiome. And this was like way in the forefront when people were just barely starting to talk about gluten. Oh. So like, can you imagine?
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
And I read it, and it changed the way that I thought about eating, and also, and not that I follow all that, like I'm an ice creamaholic, but in knowing, I'm like, okay, I know what this is doing to my body.
I'm ready
for it now.
It's all intention. I know what's happening.
It's acceptance.
Yeah.
But in that, discovering who he is, how he ties things together, and that's where I fell in love with epigenetics, which I talk about far too often.
No,
whatever.
We have to connect on that.
If I were to go back to school, it would be to study epigenetics. It's
That's
fascinating.
So wild.
We don't have to go down that rabbit
hole. No, don't
hole.
worry, because I have if I would go back, I do physics.
I got some books that you have to read.
Oh my God, let's yes.
But in then the Soul of Healing affirmations. I'm like, I've listened to it 4 billion times. That's the name, right? Okay, so he goes through A to Z affirmations, and it's something that I was listening to while I fall asleep. Now, I had listened to it so many times that I could fall asleep to it, but like most people probably couldn't. He has a very, you know, a great accent, but it'll like catch your eye. Until you like really get used to hearing it. But I'm a big believer that if I'm subconsciously taking things in, they will really rest. And in that, he talks about being the observer, and it's really cool. The observer is something that, just like you said, whenever he spoke of it in The Untethered Soul, it really, really resonates when you finally do it. And whether you're able to do it based off of like hearing that and doing it, or if one day you just find yourself doing it, then from then on out, all these things are just little tools.
Yeah, it's wild.
And once you change your mindset, and it's also all in bringing it back to me, because what is within my control.
You mean back to I? What I've been saying since episode 1? Yeah. Yes. No, it is so true. Everything we've talked about. I mean, even when we talk about your art, when we talk about looking at anything in life as art, it's like everything is connected back to just you.
Yeah.
And like everything
has
to do with
feeling responsible for how I am affecting my world and how and there's nothing more anxiety provoking than something that
out of your control.
Out of your control.
Right.
If you allow that to be where that narrative ends.
Right.
But
or I always say it's like being victim to your circumstances. Like you can either be a victim to your circumstances and be anxiety ridden, be like everything is against me and everything hurts me and ouch, or you can say like, no, I'm in charge of making myself feel good. I'm in charge of fueling myself correctly. I'm in charge of moving my body. And then when you take responsibility, now you're going to do the things, you're either going to do the things that will make you feel good and will bring you happiness. Or if you don't do it, you know that you're actively choosing not to, and then you feel crappy about it. But at least you know that you're doing it to yourself.
Exactly.
And that's my thing. I'm like, you can be do whatever you want, as long as you know what you're doing and you're taking active responsibility for it.
Yeah.
But like, there's so many people who are just so passive about life.
I think there's just, we do, like I said, we group think a lot more than our ego will let us identify with. The awakening of remembering that you do have a lot of things within your power, it's something that I'm trying to stand on in my art and in every conversation that I have, because that's one of the biggest ways I'm able to influence anybody right now. My art being abstract and usually just, it's for the most part right now commission-based, which means it's going from me to that person. In every interaction with that person, in me telling them my process, they get to take that and start to look at things in their life a different way.
Which is so cool. And I always say, like, perspective to me, I think is it's so underestimated. It's not underestimated, like undervalued. I think perspective is so undervalued because it's taken you your whole life to gain the perspectives that you have. Every single thing that's ever happened to you has given you these perspectives. You've formulated these perspectives, and now you're going to share them with me on this podcast and share them with everybody. But it's like, that should not be taken for granted for 1 second. And you being able to put this perspective now into art is now something. Not only do you get to almost have something that is like, this is my perspective at this point in time when I did this art, but now that somebody else gets to view your perspective through a different form of medium, like a different type of art, you know? I think that's insane.
And, you know, in bringing it back to like, this life isn't about me, it's, since I was little, I think one of the things I was really truly gifted with, like art, yes, that is my outlet, but it is in hearing other people's perspectives and sharing that. Because a lot of people don't know how to share their own. And then when you're able to see your own perspective in something, that's when you really connect with something. And so if I can be a translator, I call myself a bridge all the time.
Wow, that's
and like,
so beautiful.
And there will be a whole collection of bridge pieces. So
that's
you
incredible.
heard it here first. This is me making sure I do it.
Yes. Listen, accountability, I love it. But really, but that's a beautiful thing.
I'm putting a lot of intention in that because it is my job to experience different people. I talk to all from bottom to top, and your definition of that is yours to hold. But there's so much substance in every corner of this earth, and especially in the places where you don't want to go, especially with the people that you don't agree with. And being that our illness right now truly is separation, then I know my job here is to create a path over, right? So like if I can be in this world that's like hip hop, like I'll be like, I always say, I joke because I'm not really, but don't cancel me or whatever. Probably be like in a trap house, and then like the next day I'm in a mansion. But
I get it.
I'm sharing
I literally get
it, and that's like I would say I'm kidding. I'm not really kidding, but like, and I love that because I can exist in those worlds, and if I can do that, because not everybody can.
Not everybody can, girl.
There's solutions that lie within every interaction that I have, and if anybody can take anything from this or just like a piece, it's opening your eyes and your mind to that concept that anytime you are somewhere, especially when you are feeling uncomfortable, that's when you need to like step back, be the observer, and take what you can out of a situation.
Yes.
I think after COVID, I know after COVID, all of us being out, it's been very different. In any social setting, especially with the younger generation. So anybody who's, 5 to 10 years younger than me, who I'm interacting with, there's this like
tensions.
Yeah. And you start to take that on yourself because I picture it like a school of fish. They all communicate
Yes.
and move together. We also start to do that. So the more powerful energies in the room, it's my job to then feel that and like, oh, it's transferring me. Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Let me.
Yes. Yes.
And do
oh my God,
what
there's
I can.
So much power in that. It's crazy.
And I want to make you feel comfortable now.
Yes.
So if I focus on, instead of my own anxiety, oh God, what am I translate? Now I'm feeling like, do they notice? Nah.
Yeah.
Let me take the power back.
Yes.
And think about, what can I do to make you feel a little calmer?
Right.
And mostly it's just like loosening up and them realizing like, hey, we're all humans.
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah. Like, it's all good. But I want to go back and talk more about your art and the transitions that you've kind of gone through, because we've talked about how much almost we change through life and how much we're affected. But there has to be a translation, because I know if I'm talking about my art, right, being my body and my life, and I know how much my internal environment has affected my expression of my art, I can only imagine how that's translated for your personal pieces. I mean, aside from, I'm sure it's translated to some of your commission pieces too, and like your style, you know, has probably gone maybe slightly different, or you just practice more and it's changed slightly. But I do think there's a big correlation between your internal environment and how that changing will change your art.
Oh, 1000%. I find myself, this is where I still have so much room for improvement, and I do really well for time. Actually, you know, overall I treat myself pretty good in that sense. And the better I treat myself, and the art always has something to communicate. So even if I am in a place where I'm not treating myself well or whatever, it still ends up being something
for you
of value for me or somebody or whatnot.
But there's always like you always gain something no matter what.
It's the business aspect though, because the stuff that comes inherently easy to me, I don't need to set up my life around that. What creators in general need to do, and what I try to do, is set my life up to support my weaknesses. And I was in my past life really like about the business aspects, and I've been in different industries, and I've managed people, and you know, I just have lived I had my own business, and that kind of had to take the back seat when I started art. And I don't pick it apart, because some things I just let be, because I do like be myself. I'm like, why can't I do both? But it's spreading the energies, and when you're talking about what I put into a piece, the more that I can put into it, the more energy, as far as like the thought and throughout the day that goes to that, then the more that goes to that, like the more value. So it is hard for me to parcel out some to go to the parts of the business that it makes
total sense to me.
I know just need to be there and be in place, but that's also that's the discipline part.
Yes.
It's getting passionate about making the whole thing work.
Right.
You can't just do the part that you love.
But that's tough too, because I get it too.
You find a way to love the other stuff.
Yeah, you do. Well, and I think that going back to the whole like doing something that you don't like, right? Doing something hard just to do it. I think that's kind of where I am too, where it's like there's aspects of business or this. It's like, this is the best part, obviously, of having a podcast is the actual podcasting. Yeah. But this is a short amount of time compared to the amount of work that goes into producing a podcast.
And so I can only imagine where I would be able to even grow further now. Right. When I get a better workout routine, when I get a better, because you know, it is crazy. And I used to be an athlete. I always did sports. Whenever I do feel that anxiety, I'm like, I'll go run. I like to sprint. Nice. I don't like to do anything long distance.
Yeah. Sprinting's fun though.
Sprinting, the reason why I love it, and it's so
Tell
funny.
me.
If you come to my house, I make almost everybody go on a walk with me.
Down.
Yeah.
Down.
I know you're down. You're down for the second part too. And then I always make people race me.
Oh my gosh. You are literally, like, why have we not been friends before?
Yo, being a kid is like, because we'll be walking. I'll just look at them and I'm like, to the stop sign. And they'll be like, wait, what? I'm like, I'm serious. Tie your shoes.
I love that you live close to me, because I think we're actually friends now. No,
do you
same.
Want to meet in the middle?
We could race, so you guys live first.
In like, the thing I love about sprinting is, okay, you get running so fast that your brain has to shut off because I'm like,
yes, if you think about it,
if I mess up, I could actually really hurt
yes,
myself.
If you think about it too hard, you will fall.
In
100%.
Life.
Yes,
Like,
there you go. You just
correlation.
Can't, yes, you can't think about it too hard.
And then anytime I do that, all it's doing is it's connecting those places in my mind and strengthening. When you strengthen that connection and truly like scientifically strengthen that connection, now you have more circuitry running. So like,
so fascinating.
The physical body has so much to be offered to those other aspects of your life. And one of the things I'm really starting to research and become intentional about is how the human brain operates, but it's also because we really are the guinea pigs for what is going to happen long term with looking at all these LED screens.
So much. I mean, for so much.
Taking all this. I'm
with social media, with how it's like just become so I mean, if we look at life like 100 years ago, I mean 50 years ago, it's just so different. So in the last episode, I discussed how passion isn't something that is found in something else. A lot of people think that they have to find a job that they're passionate about, or they have to, but really everything comes from within you. You are the one who has to tap into what passion feels like. Like the fact that I'm here sitting across the table from an incredible artist with these beakers in the middle of us, just chilling, having a conversation that's super deep about art and spirituality. Like,
you made this happen.
We just, you are here. You are the one making things happen. And my passion was the driving force for it, right? And I think that if you're able to tap into what makes you feel passionate, like I think that overall there should be an overarching passion for life. I think that you should feel passionate for being here. I think step one. But then from there, there's things that are just going to elicit more life in you. They're going to make you feel like you feel more alive, right? Like that's how people describe it.
Yes.
And I think those are like the signs, right? Like that's like you should be doing that. Your alignment, that's where you should be going. So I feel like with art, something that I was saying like kind of makes me jealous is that I feel that when you are an artist that you have almost like that tangible like thing that you do, whether it's painting or whether it's sculpture, whatever it is, like you're able to put your passion into something that you can physically see the representation of. Right. So I feel like finding your passion without a physical representation can be really hard for people. And I'm starting to realize that because art is everything, that means that I'm an artist for everything, and that makes me passionate about everything.
Right. It's also knowing that your life and your purpose doesn't have to look like anything. You know, so much has been commercialized, but if you take all that away and give yourself the time to sit with yourself and don't put a timeline on it, but what you said about overall passion for life, absolutely. And if you're tying everything to yourself too much, that might be the problem. Yeah. Your passion a lot of time lies in something that makes you feel. And that's why I feel like the gift that I've been given, this gift and a curse, because y'all have no idea what goes on in here, it is to take on and evoke feeling. And that is what makes us feel alive. Yeah. And a lot of times that is the scary stuff where people don't, your piece on vulnerability. Yeah. I am in a space right now where I finally have sat back and I'm like, I'm ready to become vulnerable again. Yes. I'm very stoic in ways. I come from a line of stoic women, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah. But you need to really cultivate that fire and that passion. You need to experience and feel things. And it's as simple as the answers could lie in that physical triggering when you are, and I encourage everybody to do this. So when you're in your car and you're driving, like scream.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I'm not the first, and I won't be the last to say that.
No, but yes, almost like bringing yourself to feel an extreme.
Yeah, like to feel an extreme.
Feel an extreme,
especially a physical extreme. Yep. That can really trigger it. You know, that's where music I think has such a. I actually recently started doing vocal toning. Cool. I've stumbled across this, but it's a practice of everybody's probably seen or at least heard of Om. Yes, it's that vibrational energy that's created by making that sound. That's why I was talking about sounds earlier. Vocal toning is following an instructor or whatever through these different sounds that they go a little deeper and farther than but they move air through your body and energy through different spaces, because to make that sound, now you have to breathe here.
So cool.
I don't know if you've gone to church or, you know, in any group scenario where you're singing with a group of people, you find yourself matching their tone like easily. It's odd. But during like a hymn, if
you can find it.
You can find it and feel it. That's what this pretty much is. And we naturally do that as humans.
So cool.
And when I found this and I started doing it, because I realized now that I live alone and a lot of my work is alone, I wasn't talking throughout the day as much as I normally did. And with that, I was losing something. And I didn't realize what it was. And then when I would be out and talking to people, which talking's always been a gift of mine too, where I'm able to communicate. I'm pretty eloquent in the way I speak, especially if I'm well practiced. But if I'm silent for 4 days in a row and, you know, not really, because when I dive in, I'm not even moving energy through my body in this right way. So I somehow came across this and I was like, oh, okay.
That's fascinating.
In doing it, girl.
I am so into this.
I'm going to send you the link.
Please do.
And for you to also share with all the listeners too, because it was transformational. When I did it, it triggered emotions that like I was like, oh, I found you. Like, what? You were hiding in this part of my body. So and sick. Now I started crying, and I used to be a crier, but like I said, I've been pretty stoic for a couple of years. And in that, it elicited that passion. There's these locked up parts of you that happen that you don't even realize have now been locked up because of trauma and whatever. And that's life. Like,
and that's, again, lying to yourself in a sense, right? Like keeping things hidden from yourself. It was like the whole episode was like, there's a level of transparency that you need to have with yourself. And I think that stuff like that really brings all of you out. Yeah. Like you can't really hide parts of you. And I think that's important because if you start to hide any part of you, then do you truly know yourself? Yeah. And if you don't truly know yourself, do you know what path you want to take or where you should be heading? What alignment are you in if you don't really know yourself, you know?
And to put it in another way that, you know, because sometimes people that if they're already feeling guilty, they're like, oh, I know myself. What has gone missing? So your own self will start to tuck things in different compartments to protect yourself. Yes. And that is necessary to an extent. Of course. But at some point you need to sit back and say, I'm ready to find this again. Okay. It's going to be hard. It's worth doing it. The energy and resources are out there. Yes. And in doing that, and if you start with wanting to feel something first, truly feel something, it will unlock a lot of ways of thinking. If there's conversations with your family that you haven't had, if there's some resistance, just go ahead and do that. Be vulnerable, put it out there. Deal with whatever angst, because that numbness needs a lift for you to truly feel passion again. And when you feel passion, that's where you find clarity. Yes. And for that, like, the cards will start to fall in a different way.
Of course. And like I also mentioned that when you are feeling that vulnerability, I think that I almost described it as like different layers. I won't get into it because I already talked about it. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I think that there's almost like you put yourself in the center and you build walls around yourself, and each wall kind of has a different level of vulnerability, right? Because we can be vulnerable with strangers, but then it's a different type of vulnerability with a significant other than with a parent, than with a sibling, you know? So there's different layers, and there's different almost like gates with keys, and we hold all the keys. We're the ones locking all our vulnerabilities in there. Like people think that it's the other way around, but really it's us. We have total control to what degree of vulnerability we get to. I think that it's the first thing is understanding that it does not matter what gates you go through, how many levels of vulnerabilities you go through, whether you go through them, acknowledge them or not, they're still there. Right. They exist no matter what, and no matter what, you're still you. So regardless of who sees your vulnerabilities or who judges your vulnerabilities, it does not matter, because regardless of their judgments or or their input, you're still you, and it does not change whether your vulnerabilities exist or not.
Yeah.
So I think that once you're able to do that, you're really able to see like, okay, I can be vulnerable in front of anyone and everyone because you have nothing to do with who I am right now.
It becomes a shield instead of a wall.
Exactly. And so I think that that's really where you can use that vulnerability as a strength, where you can now connect with people on such a deeper level because of everything you've gone through. And you can say, look, these are my scars. Like I recognize your scars. Like I have them too. And maybe you don't want to recognize your scars, but here I am, and I'm going to tell you that I made it through, and that's okay. And then sometimes it's like the littlest thing will really help people, you know, continue on their way. Yeah. And continue that path and see that because you were stronger for it, they too will be stronger for it.
100%.
It's crazy.
Like, if I could clap right now, I would. Saying Anna's gone.
No, but it's really quite wild. But so, do you see yourself doing this forever? So you're currently commissioned, and you're like just doing this mainly like full time now.
I've been full time for 2 years now.
Girl, clap again, Anna. Clap again. That's a big freaking deal.
It is, and I've always this is me growing, me saying it is, because like. You know, the other part.
Girl,
of me,
I get
the
it
angel
too.
and the devil. The devil's like, ain't enough.
Anna is my on my shoulder.
I have so many good people in my life who have been.
If you ever need somebody to hype you up, if you need anybody to ever be proud of you, just give us a call. Yeah, we do that so well. We're so good at being proud.
I love having a percentage of myself that's inherently just not satisfied, but I've come to a place with that where I understand that is part of the beauty of this this way of thinking, and this is what I bring to the world. And you're also so without aware. It, I'm like, it's too easy.
But you're also happy. But you're also so aware that, again, it's a whole like, if you're gonna do it, at least you know what you're doing, right? Like if you're gonna have that little bit of you that's like unsatisfied, it's not that you have something that's looming over you that you feel has control over you. It's like, you know that little piece of you, you allow to be there.
Here's where my awareness lies. in my overall encompassing like reality of life, as aware as I feel, the thing I'm most aware of is that I'm completely unaware. I can go into any situation, because honestly, up until the last year has been the most challenging year of my life. And that's crazy, because I did not have everything's relative, an easy upbringing. Like I said, relative. But this last year, in the stages that I've had to kind of traverse, have been, and my eyes were opened in ways that were not fun.
That's crazy.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I'm so in tune, and I really understand people's energy. And what I realized the most was I put my way of thinking into other people's hands, and people don't always think like you. They really, truly don't. Yeah. So I had to take a step back from so many things and really get to learn myself. So now I am fully aware that I am fully unaware. And that just keeps me open to life. And honestly, like,
I think that is, though, being aware. Yeah. Being aware, for me, like, somebody who is self-aware is aware that they always have to be observant. Like, they always have to be present and observant, because I am constantly...
You can always be wrong, and it's okay to be wrong.
And not only is it okay, is like, embrace that. Wrong. Yes, yeah. Like I'm personally at such a point with who I am as a person that I'm like, I love everything. Like, even talking about like the struggle, right? Because we were talking about like the struggles of like starting your own podcast and editing and doing all this stuff. And I was like, no, I'm like living. Yeah. I'm living through my journey. Like, and I'm just like getting to observe it all. Yeah. Like, even the times when we've messed up and stuff, I'm like, this is a beautiful mistake. I mean, it's not even a mistake. Somebody told me one time, they're like, you would be the worst person in an interview, because they'd be like, so what are like the best things you've ever done, the worst things you've ever done? I'm like, I've never done anything that was worse. I'm like, there is no fail with me. Like, I feel that. There's nothing that...
You're like, I've learned. That's it. There's only lessons. Yeah. And it's just such a beautiful thing. Perspective. And you know, it's in that you find resilience. And I think that's what people need more than ever in this world. And I am a big proponent of, you need to not be a victim. Not
100%
right now. Like, we don't need that right now.
Right. Well,
and like I'm all about like, take your time, like be soft with people. For me, I can handle it. Like I'm made for, like, let me be the warrior then. Like I got this. Do I need to buck up and live a life that like it stands for something else so that generations to come, because I don't think we think too far past our generation anymore.
Yeah.
And some people, I don't want to take that from everybody because this is very like my window again. There could be a whole countries that have a different mindset, and that's also being aware of that. If you're feeling hopeless, anything like that, then be what you need to see.
Yeah.
It's out there. I mean, like, to just go watch some Maya Angelou.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I always feel, I know. I just feel like, and it's funny that you mentioned like getting back to yourself, because I really think that almost the prescription here that everybody needs is literally,
we'll make it.
Yeah, we'll make it. Is they need to return to I. And I keep saying that because that's kind of like how it came to me. Like those are the words that came to me, but it really is getting back to knowing that you are in control of everything. Like you're in control of what your life looks like. You're in control of finding things that make you happy, and you're in control of creating a life that you want to live, and really just like bringing you back to taking responsibility for yourself, your actions, and how you affect people. And I think that is what being self-aware is like being aware of I, being aware that I affect and are affecting everything around me. And I'm also taking in everything at the same time. It's like, as much as I'm putting out, I'm taking in.
Right.
And so it's just, it's crazy, but I think that really is such a huge solution to the whole like needing attention, it's like if you can self-validate, then all of a sudden we're not fighting for attention, or we're not feeling like we're comparing each other, or there's so many things that I think would be resolved if we start to, instead of looking outward, start looking inward, and just start realizing how much is ours. And there's no victimhood when you take responsibility and control of your own life.
And
you know,
and with bringing it back to yourself, it's also being okay with knowing that if you want a certain goal or result, there might be a hard road ahead. But if you can, as early as possible, like we've all made mistakes, we've all gotten into bad habits. And if you're in a toxic relationship or surrounded by people of that same mindset, do not sit there and act like it is affecting you. It is becoming part of you. And if you can identify that, you need to start to make the change
and have the courage
the courage to do it.
Well, and almost not even just having the courage. It's almost like loving yourself enough to say like, I don't want to be in environments like this. I think that that's what lacked for me personally. I don't think that until I loved myself, did I not have the courage to make those decisions and take myself out of situations that didn't serve me, because I was constantly trying to fit into those situations and force myself to serve them. Right. Like I was like, I want you to need me. Like, I want you to want me. And I was like, wait, but how is it that I don't love myself and I don't want myself and I don't need myself?
Right.
So as soon as I did that, I'm like, oh, I now am self-sustained, and I don't need to feel like I need to put myself in situations that don't serve me or around people that don't serve me. And now I can look at them, like you're saying, I can almost like go back into my observer and then just be like, I wish you all the luck. And I really, like, I love you. Truly. I genuinely, truly love you, because I am you and you are me. And I have been that person, you know? I've been the person that's made people probably feel like this, or whatever the case may be, but it becomes totally different now.
Right.
Because I don't need your energy. Yeah. Right? I can now give you energy.
Yeah.
And I think love is always going to be more powerful than fear. And I feel like that's really what we function out of. It's either love or fear. And
girl, I could.
I know. I feel like I'm just going to keep you all day.
We also, you know, in the being in a situation because you didn't love yourself and whatever, what I realized, I was putting myself in positions or relationships where, you know, I was made to feel in many ways not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. Now, I'm not putting that on the other person. What I was getting out of it was, I'm competitive. Okay. So I was growing within these circumstances. So I was still experiencing this growth.
Right.
But what I didn't realize is I was depending on that to be the catalyst for my own growth. When taking myself out of the situation, now I'm in charge of myself. Yes. Now I need to set those bars that are healthy, because these were unhealthy
expectations.
For the most part, it was a forever moving target, because it had to do with so many other factors outside of me. But if you're in a relationship where that other person, be it them or your view of them and what they're doing.
Right.
And you're always feeling like you're falling short. Part of you might be wanting and addicted to the growth that you've experienced by trying to meet these ever-changing targets.
Almost
and
keeps
you can
you
do that
busy.
for yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it keeps you growing. We
Right.
all love to grow.
Right.
And some of us have always needed a coach, a teacher, a goal.
Somebody hold you accountable, somebody to push you. Yeah.
And I've always said this, living with somebody else, I felt like the accountability factor was so much more. And then finally, when I was left to my own devices, I got to really experience, that shadow work that needs to be done. And I'm still very proud of where I am because I stood back and I realized this. And I started taking away the power from needing something else. I created a person. If I were to have my ideal teammate, because a lot of times you want to do something, you're like, I wish somebody would be here with me to do,
sorry,
you're fine, to do this. Create that person and become that.
Yes.
And now it's part of your own.
Yes. 100%.
So you can determine it. Now it's more healthy. Now it doesn't feel so, because at the same time when those circumstances, I was growing, I was undermining and digging out my own soul. Like it was.
Can I ask you what was the situation that was like that was setting those expectations?
Well, I've been in back-to-back long-term relationships.
Oh, okay.
2 of them, and like I said, it's I will never put these things on the other person. It's always going to be me at the end of the day.
Right.
So yeah, and keeping it like in that positive light.
Agree. No, but I totally agree. It was same. It was same for me. It was one of those things.
It's everything, and I know at the end of the day, it was about them and growth that they needed to experience and insecurities that they had about themselves. Because I am a full giver. I am fully dedicated to whoever I'm with. I'm loyal. In that, it's dangerous. I will give everything.
We are the same in that sense.
And when you identify that, especially after I was chasing my passion and pursuing this, anybody in my life who would then allow me to take from myself to give to them, I had to step back and realize that person actually wasn't for me, because they realized I was taking time from myself. I was taking a step back. I was dedicating myself to their little drama or whatever. And I also noticed those dramas and those issues were placed at certain times of growth for me to set me back. And whatever demons that person needed to deal with, you have to identify this. A giver will keep giving, and I am not perfect by any means.
I always say life is always going to put tests in front of you. You will always be tested, and it's always right when you don't need it. Right? It's like always at those times where you're like, of course, right? Like, of course you would be doing this today. Like, it's never convenient to be tested. But I've always found that when my alignment is being tested and I can overcome that test, I'm almost immediately rewarded or validated, or there's a sign that I get almost when it's crazy. Like, it's crazy how almost instant there's something that happens that is like,
and it's in every little action.
Littlest things, like. But again, it's going back to like knowing like that sensation that you have when you're finishing a piece, right? Like when you know that's finished, it's like there's a knowing that you have for things. It's like, I freaking know.
Yeah. And the more lost you feel, it's probably because the more you've numbed yourself out to feelings, because you've been vulnerable and you've gotten hurt. And I understand that more than anything. That is the part I'm unearthing now. And unfortunately, you need those things. I celebrate when I cry. I really do. Like,
I love that. No, I love that.
I have, because I understand the difference between sobbing and hurting very deeply and not feeling anything. And they look very different, and one is so much worse.
Yeah.
And so anytime I am crying, like the people closest to me do know that. They're like, well, that's good. I'm like, I know. I'm like, I know. Like, I can't breathe, but like, it's so good. It's so good. And that's what, again, like feeds back. What am I putting out if I can't feel anything? There's no passion to pull me through a project. And that's where, passion plays back into all of this, what can pull you through anything in life is having that inner fire. And we all have it. I think life has become very automated and complacent, that like humans in general, we're losing our need.
Yes.
For, you know, it used to be like you needed to go hunt to eat. Like I always, when I'm feeling like I'm being just a spoiled.
Oh,
like,
I do the same thing. I do the
I'll be
same
like,
thing.
yo, I am not being chased by a lion right now.
No,
but
same.
like
Yeah,
put
yeah.
yourself back. I'm like, okay, let me like get up and go to the store instead of getting Uber Eats. What?
Yeah,
No
you're like, you don't
wonder-
have to go hunt it. Like the least you could do is go buy it.
Yeah, so like if you have to trick your mind into finding something to be passionate about, just understand like, yes, this world like is a little convoluted, but that doesn't mean you have to have a hopeless mindset about it.
Right.
And it's not just going to change one day. Just go ahead and start. Like,
Yeah.
go ahead and be different today.
Yeah. Well, and it's
Like-
and it's as simple. It starts for me. It started as simply as first just chasing the feeling. Right. It's like as soon as I like felt something that made me feel passionate, like I felt really passionate about this, I would take photos of it. I would do it as often as possible. I would try to recreate that
Universe
sensation.
will give you energy.
Listen, yes.
It'll be like,
No, really, like, and so the more, and it's just like anything, like what you mind, you manage, right? So like with angel numbers, anything that you start to notice, you'll notice more of. It's the law of attraction, right? So it's like as soon as you start to chase passion, you find passion, passion will multiply. And then you'll really start to understand that. And all of a sudden you're not going from like gaps of feeling absolutely nothing and then, oh, something I like, passion, yay, and then nothing. It's all of a sudden you're finding these like moments of passion to the point where you can almost start to bridge that gap and you're like, oh, I feel passionate about all of this because at any point in time I could find something I feel passionate.
and you're staying true. Staying true to yourself, I think, is such a big part of that. Because if you are able to get a place with something that you can like fake passion for, because really the payoff for you is the attention, validation, something that's really like more ego fed, which ego is part of all of us. Like it is something that is within us, and that's cool. But like if you base everything off of that, that's air. And so at some point you're going to get to a situation you're like, God, I feel so empty.
Right. Well, it's like there's just superficial.
Yeah, it's superficial. So
that.
The one thing I'm so thankful for, and this was just kind of inherent in me, my dad would always say, do the right thing before I went out the door every single day. And he's from Rhode Island, so it's like,
Cute.
Do the right thing. You know?
Yeah. So you hear that voice every time you leave your house?
Yeah, and it always resonated with me. And he and my mom, like, and my brother's like a little angel. He's so sweet. And he's older than me. I talk about him like he's younger. He's my
That's funny.
older brother. Well, I was like more the warrior child.
Yeah.
I was like, let's mess stuff up. And he was like, all right.
That's so funny.
But we always had this understanding, like this love really for people, and doing the right thing as much as possible,
Right.
like, you know, with the right intention and really truly trying to be honest and good to a fault.
Yes.
That has allowed me in this journey to feel right with wherever I'm at,
That
even
is
if
so
I mess
awesome.
up. Because like at the end of the day, when somebody, despite the overall like, you know, social media, how it can be a lot of assumptions, and I know people are assuming stuff, but I'm not going to try to think like everybody else who's intaking whatever through their lens, because that's impossible.
Well, and it's like assumptions. Well, and we've read the same book, so we have the same mindset on the assumptions. But when it comes to assumptions, it's like, what is it? Right? It's like, it's really just make-believe.
Right.
Until I know for a fact, it's just make-believe. It's just a narrative that I'm telling myself. Or like even judgments. It's like, I'm just hearing my judgments of you, but you don't hear them and you don't care.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't affect you. I'm the one filling myself with that energy.
Even if you're assuming what other people are going to assume.
Yeah.
So because that's such a big piece of where we're at now. And it's like, especially with art and like everything being, you know, I am putting the innermost parts of me out there for consumption, and monetizing something that I truly like. If I could not, that would be amazing. I'm finding my path to the right way always of creating value, keeping it genuine, but also making living and really building, because I'm ready to be the first millionaire in my family. So like, don't get me wrong, I got goals, girl. Like we're going.
Hell yeah!
You know what I'm saying?
We got millionaires sitting at this. I can't wait till
we deserve money.
Listen, I can't wait. Allison, I'm calling it right now. Our listeners calling right now. One day, We'll have 2 millionaires sitting at this table. We're gonna have 2.
Y'all heard it here first.
Listen, what was it? More money, more money, more problems.
Bring on the problems.
Bring on the problems.
We did not just quote Drake.
Hey,
Yeah.
Drake's gonna be on my podcast.
21.
You know that?
Yes, he is.
He is. I love that your eyes said yes.
21.
21. No, but really, because I had a meditation that I did, and it was trying to. Okay, so the meditation was all trying to picture myself. I was trying to picture myself like in my dream job, and it was like inner child work. I can't remember, like, it was a guided meditation. I can't even remember it now. But it was essentially me trying to picture myself, like the child self, like picturing, like walking into like my job, almost like me being the child at like my mom's job, sort of, but like seeing what my life would be like. And I was with Drake. I was wearing green too. I was waiting. I literally was saying I was wearing green, and I was standing there and I was waiting for Drake to walk in, and I was like,
Yo,
hey,
Drake, she coming for you.
Drake, you didn't want his loss. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey.
But no, but I think that
I believe it.
the passion. I do too. I'll text you. I'll let you know.
Like, be here.
I was like, you'll be in the episode right before.
Listen, at the end of the day, when you bring just as much value, it's real, recognize real, like stuff like that. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, we all belong in the same room. Duh. You're
Duh.
welcome.
That's why we're here. Exactly. You're welcome.
These are all the things you have to do to make sure you're continuously building yourself up, regardless.
Listen, and honestly, I'm like,
And it's fun.
dude, you know what I think too? Okay, this is going back. Okay, before we sign off, honestly, if anybody's listening still, I love you, first of all, because thank you for being here. Sincerely, I really appreciate it.
And you're welcome.
And also, you get the more tea stuff.
Ooh.
But when I was in my relationship, I had a whole thing where we never talked about marriage. I was 10 years, never talked about marriage. The only times that we talked about engagement were like literally towards the end of our relationship. I was kind of thrown off. I did not know that we were gonna end things when it happened. So I was still on
You
the
were like
thinking,
most women prepared.
yeah. I was like,
I've
oh,
already been packing my bags.
yeah. I was like, oh, blindside, okay.
Dope.
So that's cool. So during that time, I think that something that has always really resonated with me is like, if you don't talk about it, it won't happen. How is something supposed to happen that you're not thinking about or talking about? The universe doesn't know. So I'm like, for me to not have been married after 10 years was no surprise to anybody. I mean, it was a surprise to everybody, but it was not a surprise to me.
Right.
Because I was like, we don't talk about it. We don't do that.
Yeah.
When was it supposed to happen if nobody talks about
And
it?
you're also thinking he's thinking like you think.
Right.
And he has to know, which, I mean, I don't know anything about it, but I'm like, 10 years?
Right. That's why I say, I'm like, go back to the whole judgment thing. Just kidding.
Hey, listen.
But
I had a 10-year relationship too, so.
Oh my God.
I totally
we need to have an
understand,
episode
like,
where we just talk about relationships.
Oh man, all right, yeah, get me real prepared for that one.
No, yeah, we'll. Me too.
No, there's a lot of good stuff to always
Oh no,
share.
I think that anything that I've ever gone through has given me. To be
Yeah.
honest, I'm so grateful for it all because I couldn't be sitting here right here, the person I am, without it.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it all. But looking back, I've learned so many things. Like I will never not talk about the things that I want to happen ever again.
Girl,
Ever
put
again.
it out there, say it.
Like say it and don't stop saying it.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. So when I say that we're gonna be millionaires, listen, everybody who knows me knows what I say happens. I should have said what I say goes because I wrote it rhymed, but what I say
You're
goes.
not trying to beat Drake. You're trying to have him on the.
Oh yeah, my bad. I keep forgetting. Not me, literally. Never mind. I'm not gonna keep embarrassing myself on the podcast. Okay, so I want to talk about your tattoo. I want you to share what your tattoo says and what the meaning behind it is.
So my tattoo is a beautiful start for unfinished art, and it really embodied what I truly was before I started painting like professionally full time. I would create pieces and I wouldn't finish them. So it was a play on that because that was something that I got a lot of flack from. And also I realized there was so much more meaning to that. Why was I just painting over pieces? It was never finished. I'd throw it off to the side. And then I started completing pieces and realizing it is about the process. And that start, it is just the start. And it's also tying it to my life. We are art. You're always growing and changing. So welcome that. Like, welcome the process. Be there for the process. Like, you never have to be finished. There isn't a finish line. It's been said over and over again. And I'm a living testament to that, and so are you.
Yes.
And if you need to scrap the whole piece and start over, do that. Do it. Yeah.
Wow. That literally could make me cry. It's just such a true testament. Like, you are so right. Like, it's so true. And it's such a beautiful thing that you got that from your own life, but it translates so well for everyone.
And I got it. It's something that it really like hurt me. Like it was something that would always, because it was used to make me feel like I wasn't able to do this life was, oh, well, you're not going to finish it anyways.
Right.
And I was like, damn. And so part of it was like that person was wrong in it not being something that is doable. And I needed to buck up and start finishing stuff and like prove to myself. It was the biggest to prove to myself. Because sometimes like leaving something unfinished, that's a cop-out. Like,
Yeah.
I can blame everything on art if I wanted to.
Right, but also going back to the whole taking responsibility
Yeah.
for yourself, you're like, no,
Yeah.
I'm in charge of finishing this. Nobody's going to come here and finish this for me.
And the beautiful thing about this tattoo is the meaning has grown and changed as well throughout
my God,
time.
I love that.
So
that's incredible.
I can't wait to see like in 10 years
Right.
what it means.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I love it. And I'm so grateful that you've come here today. I am beyond blessed to have you today. I think that this conversation really just sparked so many more conversations that I would love to have with you on a personal level and on the podcast.
Oh, we're going to kick it.
I'm like on the personal level, but we'll just record it anyway for
Yeah.
people because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah,
there really
absolutely.
is.
And I'm so honored to be here and that you are providing this platform and this space.
Don't make me cry for real.
Seriously, it's a lot to like tackle and to put out there. It is your art. It's not only your art, it's your actual experiences. And so you're doing those things justice.
Ugh. Thank you.
Don't make me cry.
I know. I literally wasn't planning on this is episode. I mean, if it's gonna be episode 4 that I cry on, it is fine.
Episode 4.
But that is, thank you, because it's
Of course.
just like on a really deep level, being validated by you here in this space feels so like surreal.
You know what? Bless the vulnerability that is and that
It's
is living. Go
crazy.
ahead and cry. What am I saying?
It's just so crazy. It's just
The only reason that we're not, and I know this is because like makeup.
I know that's the only reason why I'm like, turn on the fans.
Exactly. That's why I won't put
Like,
you through it.
I won't do it. I'm just kidding. That was
I love you. I love you. Crawl across the table and kiss me.
okay. Now an invitation. No, but really, it's just been such an honor, and I just found myself really getting lost in your words because there's just such a connection that I feel not only with you, but you are such a reminder that we are really all just mirrors.
Yeah.
And it just is so deeply embedded in me to see you and listen to you and just be so observant to all the stories that you have to share, because there's so many lessons that reflect and feel so specific to me, but yet I know that we're meeting today for the first time.
Right.
So it's like, this is such a testament that if you just sit down and are open-minded and can listen to somebody else, you will realize that we all have something to learn from each other.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point.
It's crazy.
How exciting is life?
It's so exciting.
It
It's so
is.
exciting to do more episodes
It
with
really
you.
is. It's so exciting.
I'm so excited.
I mean, everything that you're doing, everything that you're doing, it starts as a thought and a dream, and then the want, and you have to really like kindle
I'm just
that.
a thought with a dream. That's all I am. A thought with a dream. Listen.
I'm gonna get you a shirt.
Oh my God. Merch. I'm a thought.
Merch. I'll design it.
We have 2 weeks. Thought with a Dream, designed by Alison.
Yeah.
We need
And
to
just
make that happen.
you know what's funny?
We
It
need to
was
make that
4 years ago I started this journey. By the way, yeah, about 4 years ago I like left.
Fours be crazy
Fours
today.
be crazy. And yeah, birthday January 4th.
Wow.
And then also in starting 4 years ago, which like in the grand scheme that's not that much time, but that's where passion can like really like fast track you. If you are like
Oh, yeah, girl. Listen, I'm telling you, we have so much more to talk about.
fast track.
Fast track. I mean,
I will have
fast.
my own solo show. First one since I've been back in Florida specifically, but at a gallery, January of 2023. So I'll give you all the
Congratulations.
details
Yes,
on that
January
one.
2023. No, just block out your whole month. You don't need the date right now. Just block out the whole month. Allison's having.
And just like open your ears and
Dude,
you'll find
so
me.
exciting. No. Give me all the details. I would love to post anything.
Yeah, we're working out all the little final stuff, but it's really cool because
amazing.
You're gonna totally grab onto the intention behind it and stuff like that. And I just want to give that.
Congratulations. That's huge. That's so exciting. I'm
That's
so
also,
excited.
Just so everybody knows, like, you can accomplish a lot. You can accomplish a lot if you focus on the stuff that matters and go ahead and find your definition for the stuff that matters, because mine isn't going to be yours.
Right.
So
such a beautiful thing. Can you direct us to your socials, please?
Yes.
What is your Instagram, and do you have TikTok, or do you have any other?
I do and I don't. Like, it exists. They ain't nothing on it, but like I hide out on different platforms too. So like I have a Twitter and I actually started using it.
Nice.
I know. But like, don't scroll back too far.
Oh my gosh, don't. I was thinking
or
about
do.
that.
It's hilarious. You can see you can see the different lives that I've lived. No, so Alison.Westborn on Instagram. Okay. And you can find me through that. I mean,
do you have a website, or how do people contact you for commissions?
Through Instagram mostly.
Okay.
But yeah, I have a website, AlisonWestborn.com. It's always a good, like, to have these reference points. So
beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. Just Google it.
Okay, well, I'm excited to have you back on sometime, hopefully soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been an actual dream come true. Like, on a very serious level, you're actually watching my thought with a dream have her dreams come true. And other than that, thank you guys for coming along with us on episode 4 of the Babe Method podcast. I'm your host, Manuela Velez. And thank you, Alison, for being here today.
Thank you.
It has been such an honor, sincerely. And I just can't wait to have you back on, girl.
Thank you. And thank any listeners.
Yes. Again, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Kane.
Go team.
Go team. Good job, guys.